Canto 1, chapter 12, where Vyāsadeva has been asking Nārada Muni, what did you do, And Nārada Muni said his mother passed away, and then he left. He was alone. He took it as the mercy of the Lord, and he's walking by all these different towns and villages and farms and mines and completely dependent on the Supreme Lord. Chitra dhatu vichitradrin.
Chitra dhatu vichitradrin.
Ibha bhagna bhujadruman.
Ibha bhagna bhujadruman.
Jala ashayan shiva jalan.
Jalashayan Shiva Jalan.
Nalini sur sevita.
Nalini Surasevita.
Chitra swane patrarather.
Chitra Swane Patra Rate.
Vibramad brahmara shriyaha.
Vipramad Brahmara Shriya.
Would someone like to read? If no, then I'll read.
No one then I can read. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I passed through hills and mountains full of reservoirs of various minerals like gold, silver, and copper, and through tracts of land with reservoirs of water filled with beautiful lotus flowers fit for the denizens of heaven, decorated with bewildered bees and singing birds.
Sounds so beautiful. Nalavenu sharastanba.
Nalavenu Sharastanba.
Kusha kichaka gavaram.
Kucha Kichaka Gavaram.
Eka evati yatoham.
Eka Evati Yatoham.
Adraksham vipinam mahat.
Adraksham Vipinam Mahat.
Ghoram pratibhayakaram.
Ghoram Pratibhayakaram.
Vyaloluka shivachiram.
Vyaloluka Shivajiram. I then passed alone through many forests of rushes, bamboo reeds, sharp grass, weeds, and caves, which were very difficult to go through alone. I visited deep, dark, and dangerously fearful forests, which were the play yards of snakes, owls, and jackals. It is the duty of a mendicant Parivrajakacarya to experience all varieties of God's creation by traveling alone through all forests, hills, towns, villages, etc., to gain faith in God and strength of mind, as well as to enlighten the inhabitants with the message of God. A sannyasi is duty bound to take all these risks without fear, and the most typical sannyasi of the present age is Lord Chaitanya, who traveled in the same manner through the central Indian jungles, enlightening even the tigers, bears, snakes, deer, elephants, and many other jungle animals. In this age of Kali, sannyasa is forbidden for ordinary men. One who changes his dress to make propaganda is a different man from the original ideal sannyasi. One should, however, take the vow to stop social intercourse completely and devote life exclusively to the service of the Lord. The change of dress is only a formality. Lord Chaitanya did not accept the name of a sannyasi, and in this age of Kali, the so called sannyasis should not change their former names, following in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya. In this age, devotional service of hearing and repeating the holy glories of the Lord is strongly recommended, and one who takes the vow of renunciation of family life need not imitate the, the Parivrajacharya like Nārada or Lord Chaitanya, but may sit down at some holy place and devote his whole time and energy to hear and repeatedly chant the holy scriptures like left by the great acharyas like the six Goswamis of Vrindavan.
So Narad Muni, he's going everywhere, and Prabhupada is mentioning he's traveling like a Pravajikacharya, like a sannyasi, traveling alone. And the idea to gain faith in God, strength of mind, and to give knowledge to everyone that he comes by. But in this age of Kali, actually, it's forbidden to take sannyas. So then one may say, oh, but then there are so many sannyasis that we are having. But well, because they, what is forbidden is to take the impersonalist sannyas. That's forbidden. But the Vaishnava sannyasis, they are, they are like, for example, in ISKCON, they are bhajanandis, hearing and chanting and encouraging others to hear and chant, traveling everywhere, giving the holy name to everyone. So hearing and chanting, that is what is recommended for us in this age of Kali. As Prabhupada is saying, we don't need to imitate anyone. We may be wherever we are and engage our time and energy to hear and chant from the scriptures, the glories of the Lord. Here, of course, Prabhupada is saying that the scriptures left behind by the six Goswamis of Vrindavan. So, because the six Goswamis of Vrindavan, they've written books regarding bhakti. And so we begin from Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, then we can go on to Caitaniya Caritamita, Nectar of Devotion. And after we have read Prabhupada's books, then we can go on to read the literature of the Goswamis, because it's dealing with highly spiritual matters. Parishranantendriyatmaham
Parishratendriyatmaham
Pritparito bubukshita
Tritparito bubukshita
Natva pitva shade nadya
Snatva pitva hade nadya
Upasprishto gata shramaha.
Upasprishto gatashramaha. Thus, traveling, I felt tired, both bodily and mentally, and I was both thirsty and hungry. So I took a bath in a river lake and also drank water. By contacting water, I got relief from my exhaustion. A traveling mendicant can meet the needs of the body, namely thirst and hunger, by the gifts of nature without being a beggar at the doors of the householders. The mendicant therefore does not go to the house of a householder to beg, but to enlighten him spiritually.
Again, Prabhupada is pointing out, and he mentioned earlier also, Sukadev Goswami would stay only half an hour, just enough to milk the cow in a house of a grist. But the idea that they would go to people's houses was not actually to beg for food, but was to give Krishna consciousness to the people. to preach to the people, to engage them in hearing and chanting about Krishna. Tasmin nirmanuje
Tasmin nirmanuje aranye
pipalopastha ashrita
pipalopasta ashritaha
atmanatmanam atmastham
atmanatmanam atmastham
yathashrutam achintayam.
yatha shrutam achintayam. After that, under the shadow of a banyan tree in an uninhabited forest, I began to meditate upon the supersoul situated within, using my intelligence as I had learned from liberated souls. One should not meditate according to one's personal whims. One should know perfectly well from the authoritative sources of scriptures through the transparent medium of a bona fide spiritual master and by proper use of one's trained intelligence for meditating upon the supersoul dwelling within every living being. This consciousness is firmly developed by a devotee who has rendered loving service unto the Lord by carrying out the orders of the spiritual master. Sri Naraji contacted bona fide spiritual masters, served them sincerely, and got enlightenment rightly. Thus, he began to meditate.
So Prabhupada is pointing out that meditation is not just done whimsically, but meditation is done under the guidance of the bona fide spiritual master by serving them. Yeah, Prabhupada is saying Narad Muni served the devotees. He served them, he served his spiritual masters, he got enlightened, and then he's beginning his meditation. Also, he's saying he's meditating on the super soul. So we can see meditation is not on something imaginary or on anything or on nothing, but meditation is always on the super soul, as we also heard by Lord Kapiladev in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Dhyayatas charanambojam
Dhyayatas charanambojam
bhava nirjita chetasa
bhava-nirjita cetasa
autkanthyashru kalakshaya kalakshasya
autkantya autkantyaashru kalakshasya
hridhi asin me shaner hari.
hridhi asin me shaner hari. As soon as I began to meditate upon the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, with my mind transformed in transcendental love, tears rolled down my eyes. And without delay, the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, appeared on the lotus of my heart. The word bhava is significant here. This bhava stage is attained after one has transcendental affection for the Lord. The first initial stage is called Shraddha, or a liking for the Supreme Lord. And in order to increase that liking, one has to associate with pure devotees of the Lord. The third stage is to practice the prescribed rules and regulations of devotional service. This will dissipate all sorts of misgivings and remove all personal deficiencies that hamper progress in devotional service.
So here what Narad Muni is describing, he got ecstatic symptoms in bhava. He's in the stage of bhava, which is just before the stage of prema, which is the goal. to revive our love for God. So Prabhupada is mentioning how one can come to that position. First is Shraddha, a slight faith. When one has slight faith, one associates with the devotees. And when associating with the devotees engage them in Bhajana Kriya, in worshipping the Lord, in hearing and chanting, and engaging in devotional service. So Bhajana Kriya, when one engages in Bhajana Kriya, what happens is the dirty things in our heart, they start gradually going away. Anartha Nivriti. That is anartha. Anartha. Artha means what is needed. Anartha, what is not needed. So what's not needed? All the envy, lust, greed, pride, anger, false ego, illusion, all these things from the heart go away by engaging in devotional service. And then when they're almost gone, not completely, almost, here then Prabhupada is saying, let's read further.
When all misgivings and personal deficiencies are removed, there is a standard faith in transcendental matter, and the taste for it increases in greater proportion. This stage leads to attraction, and after this, there is bhava, or the prior stage of unalloyed love for God. All the above different stages are but different stages of development of transcendental love. Being so surcharged with transcendental love, there comes a strong feeling of separation, which leads to 8 different kinds of ecstasies. Tears from the eyes of a devotee is an automatic reaction. And because Sri Narad Muni, in his previous birth, attained that stage very quickly after his departure from home, it was quite possible for him to perceive the actual presence of the Lord, which he tangibly experienced by his developed spiritual senses without material tinge.
So when the dirty things, the anarthas are removed, misgivings are removed from the heart, one comes to the stage of a steadiness in devotional service, steady, firm faith in the Lord. And one continues engages in hearing and chanting. Then one gets a ashakti, one gets a ruchi, one gets taste. One gets taste for hearing and chanting. So earlier one may be doing it as a matter of rule and regulation, that I'm supposed to do it. But after this stage, one does it because one likes to do it. One is experiencing taste. One gets attached to hearing and chanting, cannot live without worshipping the Lord, engaging in devotional service. That's ashakti. Then comes bhava, where the emotion for God is already aroused. And in these emotions, then there are different ecstatic symptoms, which are 8, which can be visible in the body of the devotee. We can see, like, for example, tears in the eyes. Even when we love someone, here, we may sometimes have, like when we think about them or speak about them or see them after a long time, we may also have the tears in our eyes. So this here, the devotee has it for Krishna. And Narad Muni has come to the stage of bhava, and we can see it's very quickly. He's just a boy of 5 years old, and very quickly he's come to this stage of bhava. He served the devotees, he followed the instructions, and now he's come to bhava. And he's actually going to see the Lord because his senses are spiritualized. Did anyone have any comments or questions?
All this he had is because of his last, right? The previous birth.
Yeah, he's speaking about his previous birth.
His previous birth. Okay.
Yeah, he's the small boy, And then he left his home after his mother died. His mother got bitten by a snake, so he left the home. He's traveling. He's engaging in devotional service as was taught to him by his spiritual masters. And he is here,
So
come
all
on the
this is
stage.
about his previous birth. Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Premati bhar nirbhinna
Premati bara nirbhinna
pulkango pulkangotinivrita
pulakangoti nirvritaha
ananda samplave lino
ananda samplave lino
na pashyam ubhayam mune.
na pashyam ubayam mune. Would anyone like to read? Okay, I'll continue. O Vyasadeva, at that time being exceedingly overpowered by feelings of happiness, every part of my body became separately enlivened. Being absorbed in an ocean of ecstasy, I could not see both myself and the Lord. Spiritual feelings of happiness and intense ecstasies have no mundane comparison. Therefore, it is very difficult to give expression to such feelings. We can just have a glimpse of such ecstasy in the words of Sri Narada Muni. Each and every part of the body or senses has its particular function. After seeing the Lord, all the senses become fully awakened to render service unto the Lord, because in the liberated state, the senses are fully efficient in serving the Lord. As such, in that transcendental ecstasy, it so happened that the senses became separately enlivened to serve the Lord. This being so, Narad Muni lost himself in seeing both himself and the Lord simultaneously.
So he's on this bhava stage. He's experiencing so much happiness. Prabhupada is saying we cannot compare it to anything material. He's having this ecstasy. His spiritual senses are already revived. Each of us have spiritual senses. They're covered by matter, by this material senses. The Narad Muni's spiritual senses are revived, they're enlivened, and the spiritual senses always engage in service of the Lord. So he's like completely in ecstasy here.
And
Rupam
so small,
Bhagavatam.
such a small boy, right? He
Yeah,
was only 5.
only 5. Yes. And that's why he's saying about his story. He started saying to Vyāsadeva that he was telling him before that, see, I was only 5 years old. I engaged in devotional service and I've become now spiritual and I've become a great devotee by the association of these devotees, serving them, hearing and chanting, to give his own personal example, because one may say, oh, tell me who attained success by doing it. So then Narad Muni say, I'm a living example. He's telling us it's possible for everyone that, okay, now I'm this exalted person, Narad Muni, but before that I was just a small boy, ordinary boy.
And just by serving the devotees, right?
Yeah,
That's how he got enlightened.
yeah. He served the devotees and he followed the instruction.
And followed the instruction.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He served the devotees. He followed the
And
instruction.
he ate their remnants, right?
Remnant. Yeah,
Yeah.
he ate their remnants. Yeah. Then he said he served in the remnants, he got great desire to hear about the Lord. So he would hear from them the discussions about the Lord. And he's chanting, then he's meditating as per what they have taught him. So he was hearing, because Vyasadeva was feeling not good, restless, even though he had compiled so much literature. So Narad Muni told him, because you didn't glorify. So that's why. And then Vyasadeva asked him, okay, after the devotees, they left, what did you do? Then Narad Muni is now explaining what he did. His mother passed away, he left home. He's continuing with his devotional service. And now he's come to
Hare
this stage
Krishna.
of Hare
Hare
Krishna. Hare
हाँ,
Krishna.
और एक रीजन ये भी था कि वो छोटा था और संतों के संगत में रहा, उनकी सेवा किया, उनका जूठन खाया, और ये सांसारिक भौतिक संसार से लिप्त नहीं हुआ ना, बेबी बच्चा था ना वो।
हाँ,
मटेरियल लाइफ, मटेरियल लाइफ थी नहीं, मटेरियल लाइफ थी नहीं, तो इजी हो गया इसके लिए।
Easy हो गया, right? It's true. That's true too. Easy हो गया.
हाँ, और पूरा समय संतों के साथ रहा, हमेशा 24 आवर्स उनकी सेवा किया। हाँ, तो सब उसका अच्छा हो गया ना, जल्दी से डायरेक्ट हो गया, उसका मिल गया उनको आशीर्वाद संतों का।
हाँ, that's right.
And it's all due to his mother, no? His mother used to, right? So
उसकी मदर इतना नहीं हुआ, वो तो उसकी मदर तो संतों के वहां बर्तन वगैरह काम करती थी ना, वो इतना टच में नहीं गई संतों के जितना ये गया, इसने सेवा किया संतों की। ये अपनी माँ के साथ जाता था, छोटा था ना, तो उसकी माँ काम करने जाती थी संतों के पास। तो ये भी जाता था, तो इसका पूरा ध्यान संतों की तरफ गया ना।
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Auntie. So, attachment to the devotee, association with the devotees.
attachment.
Attachment, association. Rupam Bhagavato Yattan.
Rupam Bhagavato Yattan.
Mana Kantam Shuchapaham.
Mana Kantam Shuchapaham.
Apashyan Saha Sothaste.
Apashyan Saha Sothaste.
Vaiklavyad Durmana Iva.
Vaiklavyad Durmana Iva. The transcendental form of the Lord, as it is, satisfies the mind's desire and at once erases all mental incongruities. Upon losing that form, I suddenly got up, being perturbed, as is usual when one loses that which is desirable. That the Lord is not formless is experienced by Nārada Muni. But his form is completely different from all forms of our material experience. For the whole duration of our life, we go on seeing different forms in the material world, but none of them is just apt to satisfy the mind, nor can any one of them banish all perturbance of the mind. These are the special features of the transcendental form of the Lord, and one who has once seen that form is not satisfied with anything else. No form in the material world can any longer satisfy the seer. That the Lord is formless or impersonal means that he has nothing like a material form and is not like any material personality.
So Narad Muni is seeing the Lord's form. So he's proof that the Lord has a form. That's why he's speaking about himself also. He's giving his own example for so many things, that by engaging in devotional service, one can actually see the Lord face to face. The transcendental form of the Lord is Satchidananda. And Prabhupada is explaining this transcendental form of the Lord is in no way comparable to anything that we have seen. We are constantly seeing forms. We are constantly looking outside, looking at different forms, but none of them can satisfy the mind fully, can calm the mind fully, vanquish all perturbance of the mind, all the disturbance of the mind. But the Lord's form can do that because it's Satchidananda, spiritual. So Lord does not have a material form, he has a spiritual.
As spiritual beings having eternal relations with that transcendental form of the Lord, we are life after life searching after that form of the Lord, and we are not satisfied by any other form of material appeasement. Narad Muni got a glimpse of this, but having not seen it again, became perturbed and stood up all of a sudden to search it out. What we desire life after life was obtained by Narad Muni, and losing sight of him again was certainly a great shock for him.
So we are spirit souls, and we are searching out for Krishna, but we are right now we are thinking we are the body. We are actually looking for Krishna, and that's why nothing satisfies us completely. We take up something, for some time it what we say, distracts us or makes us feel satisfied. But soon we give that up and we are looking for something else. Okay, then that satisfies us for some time. But again, we are looking for something else. So who are we looking for? We are actually looking for Krishna because we have a loving relationship with him. We have an eternal loving relationship with God. And Narad Muni, he's seeing God face to face here. He saw God, but now he can't see him anymore. So he's greatly like how someone has found great treasure and suddenly the treasure is gone away.
Yeah.
So you're going to go crazy, So here Narad Muni found the greatest treasure and suddenly he cannot see the Lord anymore. So he's like greatly disturbed.
Because he found that bliss, he was feeling that bliss, and it's suddenly, right, gone.
Yeah, that's right. And suddenly, and like for lifetimes, as Prabhupada is explaining, we are actually searching for the Lord. Huh? And then he's seeing the Lord, and suddenly he's not there anymore. We don't even realize that we are actually searching for the Lord.
Right.
I don't know if you all have experienced, like we'll say, okay, I'm gonna do this. We are very excited. We start doing it. We are excited for some time. And then after some time, okay, this doesn't excite us that much anymore, Then we are taking up another thing.
Puss is gone. True.
Yeah. So how do you say? Didrikshus tad ahambhuya.
Didrikshus tad ahambuya
Pranidhai manohridi.
pranidhaya manohridi.
Vikshmanopi na pashyam.
Vikshamano api na pashyam.
Avitripta ivatura.
Avitripta ivatura. I desired to see again that transcendental form of the Lord, but despite my attempts to concentrate upon the heart with eagerness to view the form again, I could not see him anymore, and thus dissatisfied, I was very much aggrieved. There is no mechanical process to see the form of the Lord. It completely depends on the causeless mercy of the Lord. We cannot demand the Lord to be present before our vision, just as we cannot demand the sun to rise whenever we like. The sun rises out of his own accord. So also the Lord is pleased to be present out of his causeless mercy. One should simply await the opportune moment and go on discharging his prescribed duty in devotional service of the Lord. Narad Muni thought that the Lord could be seen again by the same mechanical process which was successful in the first attempt. But in spite of his utmost endeavor, he could not make the second attempt successful. The Lord is completely independent of all obligations. He can simply be bound up by the tie of unalloyed devotion, nor is he visible or perceivable by our material senses. When he pleases, being satisfied with the sincere attempt of devotional service, depending completely on the mercy of the Lord, then he may be seen out of his own accord.
Yeah, so Narad Muni is saying he wanted to see the Lord again. He was trying to do the same meditation, but he could not see him. So what is the reason? What is Prabhupada saying?
When the Lord wants, then he will, right?
Yes, that's right.
All his mercy, no? The Lord's
Yeah,
causeless mercy.
yeah.
When
Depends on
when he wants to show his form, he will. Right?
yeah. When he is pleased, then by his
His
causeless mercy,
Lord's,
then he reveals himself to the devotee. So here Narad Muni is saying, oh, my first time it worked. Now why again? I'm doing it again. Why it's not working? It should work again. So,
right.
but then
Yeah,
Prabhupada is pointing out, depends on the causeless mercy of the Lord. So because we cannot say, like Prabhupada is giving the example, oh, the sun, now you come out, or now you go. Oh, I want you now. I want to see you. Oh, now I don't want you. Now you go. No, sun will come and go as its own accord. Similarly, the Lord, when he's pleased, bound up by the tie of unalloyed devotion, reminds again of the Damodar Katha that we have been doing for the past 1 month that we were doing, And the Lord is pleased by the devotion, the sincere attempt of devotional service. That's what we can do, And then depending completely on the mercy of the Lord. So, because one may say, oh, well, I'm hearing and chanting since, His mercy. One may say, I'm hearing and chanting since X number of years. I chanted just now, see, but why Krishna didn't come in front of me? It well depends on his mercy, out of his own accord. Evam yatantam vijane.
Evam yatantam vijane.
Mam aha gocharo giram.
Mam aha gocharo giram.
Gambhira shana, no. Gambhira Shlakshanaya Vacha
Gambhira Shlakshna Yavacha
Shucha Prasham Yan Iva.
Shucha Prashtamayam Iva. Seeing my attempts in that lonely place, the personality of Godhead, who is transcendental to all mundane description, spoke to me with gravity and pleasing words, just to mitigate my grief. In the Vedas, it is said that God is beyond the approach of mundane words and intelligence, and yet, by His causeless mercy, one can have suitable senses to hear Him or to speak to Him. This is the Lord's inconceivable energy. One upon whom His mercy is bestowed can hear Him. The Lord was much pleased with Narad Muni, and therefore the necessary strength was invested in him so that he could hear the Lord. It is not, however, possible for others to perceive directly the touch of the Lord during the probationary stage of regulative devotional service. It was a special gift for Narada. When he heard the pleasing words of the Lord, the feelings of separation were to some extent mitigated. A devotee in love with God feels always the pangs of separation and is therefore always enwrapped in transcendental ecstasy.
So it's, as we just read earlier, Prabhupada was saying it's by His mercy. And once He has mercy on anyone, He can let anyone hear Him or see Him. That's Krishna's inconceivable energy, because one may say, oh, how Narad Muni, he can hear the Lord, but his senses are spiritualized. That's how he was able to see the Lord. And now he's able to hear the Lord with spiritual senses. So we can see Narad Muni is an example. He's living, proof. He's saying that the Lord has a form. He saw the transcendental form and he's heard the Lord. So means Lord is a person, no? He's speaking, he has a form, so he's a person. So Narad Muni is giving proof of his own experience. So Prabhupada is pointing out that it was Krishna's special mercy to Narad Muni, because usually when one is engaging in devotional service, during the like Anartha Nivritti and during Shakti, all these stages, one may not be able to see the Lord or to hear the Lord. One may not, but the Lord may be pleased with someone and allow them to see Him or hear Him. Completely depends on His own will. Mm-hmm. Just as here, He has giving this special mercy to Narad Muni.
Okay.
So somewhat Narad Muni is feeling pacified because he was going crazy otherwise. Oh my God, I saw him, and then now I can't see him anymore. Antasmin Janmani Bhavan.
Antasmin Janmani Bhavan.
Mamam Drashtum Iharhati.
Mamam Drashtum Iharhati.
Avipakva Kashayanam.
Avipakva Kashayanam.
Durdarshoham Kuyoginam.
Durdasho Aham Kuyoginam. O Narad, the Lord spoke, I regret that during this lifetime you will not be able to see me anymore. Those who are in complete in service and who are not completely free from all material taints can hardly see me. The personality of Godhead is described in the Bhagavad Gita as the most pure, the supreme, and the absolute truth. There is no trace of a tinge of materiality in his person, and thus one who has the slightest tinge of material affection cannot approach him. The beginning of devotional service starts from the point when one is freed from at least two forms of material modes, namely the mode of passion and the mode of ignorance. The result is exhibited by the signs of being freed from kama, lust, and lobha, covetousness. That is to say, one must be freed from the desires for sense satisfaction and avarice for sense gratification. The balanced mode of nature is goodness, and to be completely freed from all material tinges is to become free from the mode of goodness also. To search the audience of God in a lonely forest is considered to be in the mode of goodness. One can go out into the forest to attain spiritual perfection, but that does not mean that one can see the Lord personally there. One must be completely freed from all material attachment and be situated on the plane of transcendence, which alone will help the devotee get in personal touch with the personality of Godhead. The best method is that one should live at a place where the transcendental form of the Lord is worshipped. The temple of the Lord is a transcendental place, whereas the forest is a materially good habitation. A neophyte devotee is always recommended to worship the deity of the Lord, Archana, rather than go into the forest to search out the Lord. Devotional service begins from the process of Archana, which is better than going out in the forest. In his present life, which is completely freed from all material hankerings, Sri Nārada Muni does not go into the forest, although he can turn every place into Vaikuntha by his presence only. He travels from one planet to another to convert men, gods, kinnaras, gandharvas, rishis, munis, and all others to become devotees of the Lord. By his activities, he has engaged many devotees like Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruv Maharaj, and many others in the transcendental service of the Lord. A pure devotee of the Lord, therefore, follows in the footsteps of the great devotees like Nārada and Prahlad and engages his whole time in glorifying the Lord by the process of Kirtana. Such a preaching process is transcendental to all material qualities.
So here Narad Muni is, the Lord is saying to Narad Muni that, now in this life you cannot see me again, because he's still in the body of the small boy. So, of course, now in his present life as Narad Muni can see the Lord whenever he likes. He goes wherever he wants, he goes. But when he was still in the boy body, he saw the Lord. Now he's hearing the Lord, and the Lord is telling him, now you won't be able to see him. So the Lord,
But
he's
why,
complete.
Why, like after that, he
I know, right? To
cannot see him?
increase his thirst for the Lord, like to increase his desire, his spiritual desires.
Yeah.
So he gave him encouragement that he came in front of him. Now he's speaking to him, so it gave him good encouragement that continue on this.
And continue the devotional service, is it?
Continue devotional service. And then, because he's seen the Lord already one time and he wants to see him again. So there's going to be more increased, like the increased of desire that I want to see him again. I want to see him again. So doing devotional service in that eagerness, that laulium, to encourage him, to bring out that emotion in him.
But see, like how Dhruv Maharaj, he got, right? He got to see the
Dhruv
Lord.
Maharaj.
Yeah.
But also he didn't see the Lord again then.
Yeah,
Then he was
gave him
doing
the
his...
opportunity, right? Okay.
Dhruv Maharaj also didn't see the Lord again. Then only after when he went to the
And
pole
for
star.
Prahlad also, like the reverse.
For Prahlad, Lord Nishingadev. I think so, right? Yeah. Yeah. I think so. So he comes, he's giving encouragement to the devotees, encouraging them to continue in devotional service, also increasing their desire to again be with him. The desire increases because your Narad Muni is seeing the Sachidanand form. He's seeing the Lord. Wants to see him again. I mean, we can't even try to imagine the emotions that Narad Muni would be feeling,
Yeah.
So,
and it says that the beginning of devotional service starts from the point when one is freed from at least two forms of material modes. So that means like
passion and ignorance.
So that means that is not there when you...
Well, we still are under the modes.
That's what I'm saying.
We are still like we are, but that's what Prabhupada would say. Because see, the idea is to come to the mode of transcendental goodness.
Transcendental. Okay,
yeah.
Transcendental
So then,
goodness.
how to come from ignorance and passion to transcendental? Very difficult. So that's why at least come to the mode of goodness.
Okay. And then
At
above the
least
mode of goodness is the transcendental.
and then can see the Lord face to face on that stage. So that's why we always encouraged, come at least to the mode of goodness. So then, but then one may say, so now one may say, well, but I'm full of ignorance and I'm full of passion. So that means, can I engage in devotional service? Yes, of course. It is meant for us because we are in ignorance and passion. So we begin devotional service, but we at least try to come to goodness. And how? By constant hearing and chanting, by being self-aware. As Bhagavatam was saying, we are hearing by regularly chanting, by regularly hearing Bhagavatam, serving devotee, passion, ignorance gradually go away. Gradually devotee is situated in goodness. Continuous devotional service, gradually goodness also goes, like the material goodness is no more and one is in transcendental goodness. So here, but Prabhupada is pointing out that living in a forest to engage is good. It's materially good, but in the temple, that's transcendental. Vaikuntha. So, and then Prabhupada is pointing out that Narad Muni right now, he's not in his current body. He does not sit in the forest and do his meditation. No, rather he's traveling everywhere, tirelessly. He's traveling everywhere. Why? Right. To make everyone devotees, to engage everyone in hearing and chanting. And he has such famous disciples, So many of his disciples are mentioned in Bhagavatam, Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruv Maharaj. So we can imagine or rather I can say, can't even try to imagine how much spiritual power Narad Muni has.
Mm.
And Prabhupada is saying that following in the footsteps of the great devotees, preaching everywhere. Prabhupada also, everywhere he traveled, preaching, following in the footsteps of Narad and Prahlad, glorifying the Lord. So thank you so much. We'll stop here for today. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Narad Muni ki jai. Hare Krishna.